Okay guys, so we are now looking at my violin here, and I'm going to be teaching you how to put on these first fret tapes. So it's funny that they call it tapes because it's really truly more of like one giant sticker. There's a white backing to it that when I pull away you'll see it's a clear sticker that just allows those tapes to show up. But basically I'm going to be helping you to learn how to put that sticker right on the violin in the correct place. Now you can't see it very well in this video, but at the top here there's a size indication on the top of this sticker. My violin is a full-size violin, which is called 4/4 violin. When you buy these tapes and you either go into the music store or buy them online, you're going to want to make sure that you're buying them for the correct size of your violin. So some common sizes are quarter size, half size, 3/4 size. Just make sure that whatever you order reflects the size of your violin. So on the top here it should say the size of your violin, whether it's full size 4/4 or 3/4 size, half size, quarter, eighth, whatever it may be. So make sure you're finding the right size to match your violin, because these tapes and their proportion to each other are all made according and to match the size of your violin. So make sure you have that one first. Then I'm going to show you kind of how we're going to do this. So you have your tapes here. I'm just going to gently pull down the back of that tape just a little bit, about a half an inch down from the top of that sticky clear piece. This piece has actually a sticky back to it, so I don't want to pull it all the way off. I'm just going to pull it a little bit down, just like that, about half an inch down, and I'm going to fold it down like that. I'm going to gently, really gently, put that sticker right takes a little bit more finesse to this, right underneath the strings of my violin. I'm going to keep it suspended by holding it on either side of that sticker and just really, really gently slide that sticker right up until the very end of this sticker here is right up against the little ridge at the end of the neck of my violin here. The sticker, thankfully, too, has some black lines on either side of it that indicate how far to put that sticker and help you to keep it centered. So once it's down to the very, very edge of the violin here, the edge of the fingerboard, you'll notice there's a little ridge there. Make sure that that end of the sticker is right up against that ridge there. Make sure that those black lines are tracing the edge of that black fingerboard. They're right up against there. And then you can gently, gently smooth out that little bit of the sticker that's sticking out there. Once that part's smooth and in place, you're going to actually then continue, put a little bit of pressure on here to hold that in place. You're going to continue pulling off the back of that sticker. Just like that. Hope you guys can see that okay. So once that's pulled off, you may kind of just adjust it a little bit into position. And you're gonna, again, just make sure that these black lines are right in place there. Everything is nice and smooth. Once it's in position, you're just gonna rub it so it's all nice and smoothed out. Go ahead and fold these edges over, and they're gonna stick around the side there. This is gonna help you to know exactly where to place those fingers as we're playing. So make sure that that's nice and in place. If ever you need to take this off, it's really, really easy to do as well. You can just peel it off the sides here and take it right off. So not hard at all. Perfect. Okay. Halfway done. Now all we need to do is learn to tune that violin. Pretty simple. All right, guys. Well, we have reached the point where we are ready to learn to tune our violins. Now, before you start playing, you want to tune your violin and make sure each of the strings is actually the pitch it's meant to be. We have 4 different strings on the violin, E, A, D, and G, and each of those strings is meant to be tuned to that exact note. If we don't tune our violin and check to make sure that each of those strings is actually the note it's meant to be, it really won't matter where we put our fingers on the violin, because nothing's going to sound quite right. So do take a moment to just make sure your violin is in tune. A couple little tips that I'm going to give you as you're tuning here are, for one, take your time. Tuning is a process. It takes a minute just to get the hang of it. Go in small increments. Try not to change anything too drastically, and I'll teach you kind of as we go a little bit more. So as you're tuning the violin, you're really going to be using two different parts of your instrument. One is called the peg, and the other is called the fine tuner. So let me show you each of those on my violin here. So down towards the end of the fingerboard here are 4 little black, almost screw-looking things. These are called pegs. Each of these pegs is attached to a string, and these pegs help to keep those strings in tune. Now, I use my pegs when I need to make a bigger adjustment with my strings. If a string is way out of tune, then I'll oftentimes use the pegs. To tune that string higher, I'm actually going to turn the peg away from me. To tune it lower, I'll turn it towards me. That's going to change the pitch. Once one of those strings is closer to the pitch I want it to be, if I want to fine tune it and get it right on, then I'm going to move down here and use my fine tuner. That's right here. Now, on many full-size violins, many of those full-size violins are only made with one single fine tuner, usually attached to the E string, but some are not. Some smaller violins and some full-size will actually have a fine tuner attached to each and every single string, which is kind of nice. So as you're tuning, when you're almost reaching the pitch you want it to be, I'm just gonna have you use that fine tuner to finally get there. So if you want the string to go a little higher, for that pitch to go a little higher, you're gonna tune that fine tuner, and getting tongue-tied with tune and turn here. You're gonna turn the fine tuner clockwise to make that pitch go a little higher. If you want it to go lower, you're gonna turn the fine tuner counterclockwise there. It's gonna alter your pitch and get it just closer to where you want it to be. So we're gonna use both of those in combination here. Take your time again as we're tuning. Make sure to only use the pegs for bigger adjustments, and as you are using those pegs, take it little by little, not exaggerating, about 1 millimeter or so at a time. Really take your time just turning it barely. A tiny adjustment with the pegs makes a really big difference. So we'll show you in just a minute here. So I'm gonna pull up my tuning app. There are many different tuning apps out there. And honestly, you can kind of take your preference. I like to use tuning apps because they're inexpensive, they're simple, and especially for beginners, they're really easy and accessible. You can go buy fancier tuners that can be attached to your violin online or at your local music store, but I honestly think these apps do just fine for the normal beginner. So grab your phone. If you go into your app store, you can look up a number of different tuning apps. I use one called the Master Violin Tuner. I find it's really simple, it's straightforward, and it does the trick. So let me pull that up and I'll show you here a little bit more about it. So in the Master Violin Tuner, this is what it's gonna look like as you first pull it up. Let me see if I can get this to focus a little bit more. So I love this first of all because it actually shows an image of the violin and it shows your 4 strings. Each of those strings, again, has a name. We have the E, A, D, and G. And I love this because on it, and I don't know if you can see this as well in the picture, but inside of each of those little circles, there's a number next to that letter. So E5, A4, D4, and G3. And you want to be watching for those as you're tuning. That's going to tell you how and what to be tuning the string to. So what I'm going to do, once I have this pulled up, is I'm going to click the bottom here and say Start Tuning. You're going to tune each one of your strings one at a time, and what you're looking for is for that string to appear up here and to be highlighted. So as I'm playing the A string, you'll notice that the A string here will be highlighted in just a moment. Now, just kind of like you can see in the picture here, there's a little triangle, a little white triangle in the middle, and then there's a little triangle that's moving back and forth and matching the pitch of my voice right now. What we're gonna try and do is to get those 2 triangles to be one on top of the other. That little white triangle that's moving, we'd like to make it be right in the middle of that little outline triangle there, and that'll help us to know that that string is in tune. So that's what we're going to be watching for. I'm going to show you quite simply with my E string so that you can get a better feel for it. So give me just a second to grab my violin and then we'll go over that. So I'm only going to show you on the E string on this one because that doesn't require quite as many hands here. So as you're looking here, I'm going to play my E. on the right side that E is lighting up there. You're gonna play it back and forth, and pretty much those triangles are actually matching right now. I'm gonna intentionally actually make my string a little bit out of tune, a little bit too low. On this app, you'll be able to tell if your string is out of tune based off of where that little moving triangle is. If that little moving triangle is too far to the left, that means that your string needs to come a little bit higher. If it's too far to the right of that little triangle in the middle, it means it needs to come a little bit lower. So I've intentionally adjusted my E string here to show you here. So you can see to the left, which means that my E string's a little bit too low. Now just a reminder for the fine tuners, to make it go higher, I'm actually going to turn it a little bit, my fine tuner a little bit clockwise. So I'll show you how this works. So you're just gently going to turn it clockwise. And let's watch and see where that triangle is now. So now it looks like my E string's actually just a little bit too high because it's to the right of that central E there. So I'm going to turn it to the left a little bit counterclockwise to bring it down a little bit low. It's almost there. Those two triangles are almost right on top of each other. I'm going to tune it just a little bit more. And they're just about right. So that's how you tune your violin using this tuning app. You're going to do that with each and every single one of your strings, the E, the A, the D, and the G. Now thankfully my strings were fairly in tune, so I didn't have to make any bigger adjustments. If you did have to make a bigger adjustment, that's when you'd use your pegs and turn them a little bit away from you or a little bit towards you to bring that pitch higher or lower. But once it's close, feel free to go ahead and use that little fine tuner there. There's your little tuning tutorial there.